Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Reverend Melick Thomas, Senior Pastor of Bethel AME Church in Selma, North Carolina, and I'm here for a very special edition of the Let Out. Usually it is at 9 p.m. at the end of the day, but because of the monumental things that are happening at our General Conference, we wanted to make sure that the right voices were at the table, that we are hearing from not our overseas districts, we're hearing from our motherland districts. Because to our African districts, 14, 15, 17 through 20, we are the overseas districts. We want to hear from our motherland districts. And so today we have two very special guests with us. And before we get into our discussion, I'd like to send a special shout out to Brother John Thomas, the editor-in-chief of the Christian Recorder, for his willingness and his openness to democratizing the General Conference. And then also, I would like to say that the feelings and the views and the opinions expressed on the Let Out are that of those who are speaking on the Let Out and not those of the Christian Recorder or the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And so I want to make sure to make that clear and to basically pause for station identification on that. But today we have two very, very special guests. Throughout the week, a lot of people forget that the African Methodist Episcopal Church is not simply an American denomination, but intentional from the beginning. Richard Allen and the four parents of the African Methodist Episcopal Church were intentional about it being a Pan-African church, that we are a church that is reaching across the Atlantic, that is reaching across the Caribbean, that is reaching across the world to demonstrate that African Methodism is a liberating and reconciling body. And to that end, we have seen a number of technological issues, a number of political disagreements that have happened this week as it has related to our motherland districts that are on the continent of Africa. And we wanted to make sure that because we have been intentional about democratizing the voices of the General Conference, we wanted to make sure that we heard from our siblings over in the mother continent of Africa. And so today we have with us two of our very, very special guests. We have first Brother Caesar Kalenga, who is from the 17th Episcopal District. And we have Brother Shone Sipopa, who is also from the 17th Episcopal District. And we are excited to have them here. We're not going to spend a lot of time because it is 3:00 where they are. But we want to make sure that the voices of our siblings in the mother continent of Africa are heard and that they are able to express their truth and their perspective, because their perspective matters just as much as our own. So, Brother Kalenga, Brother Sipopa, welcome to the Let Out. How are you doing today?
We're doing fine.
Doing fine.
Yeah, fine. How are you doing?
I am well. I am excited to talk to my brothers from another mother. That's how I see y'all. And so I am just really glad to be able to participate in what is a very, very important conversation. And just for clarification, Brother Caesar Kalenga is the lay organization president of 17th Episcopal District. And Brother Shone Sipopa is a candidate for, is a part of the judicial. Yeah. So what is your role in the church? Let me ask you, what is your role in the church before I get it wrong? I don't want to get it wrong.
The third vice president Episcopal.
Say that one more time. It got a little choppy.
I'm the third vice president of the lay organization.
Third vice president. Oh, okay.
Yes,
the third vice president of the lay organization. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
At the same time, I'm in the Episcopal committee.
You're on the Episcopal committee.
Yeah,
all right. So let's start right there. As you know, for those of you who may be watching who are not members of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, When we come to General Conference, one of the most, if not the most important committee in the General Conference, the most revered General Committee in the General Conference is the Episcopal Committee. The Episcopal Committee is the committee that is made up of both clergy and lay all across the church, and they help provide senses of accountability for our bishops, and they also provide appointments and recommendations for appointments for the bishops of our church. And today, just to show you how important the Episcopal Committee is to the AME Church and to the General Conference, is that it is in the discipline, the doctrine and discipline of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, that if there's an announcement that the Episcopal Committee is at the door, that business has to stop until the Episcopal Committee has finished what they needed to talk about. And so today, that happened. The Episcopal Committee made their announcement that the Episcopal Committee was at the door. They came in and they read their first report. And the bombshell news from their first report was that Bishop Wilfred Jacobus Messiah was brought up on charges of maladministration. And I will let our guests share a little bit more about those charges. But they also recommended that he would be located, which means that he would not receive an appointment at the end of the General Conference. And so in the midst of the debate that ensued after this, one of the things that was said was that there was not any African representation on the Episcopal Committee. And so I want you to say that one more time. You don't need to go into details because I know that you are sworn to secrecy. What you are on what committee of the General Conference, Brother Sapopa?
I'm the judicial.
You're on the judicial committee of the Episcopal Committee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So just to be clear that there was representation not only from our motherland districts, but representation from the 17th Episcopal District on the Episcopal Committee. So what I want to do right now is I want to go to Brother Caesar Kalenga. I want to go to him right now and ask him a little bit about his experience in the 17th Episcopal District during Bishop Messiah's tenure there. Because one of the things that came up was that the members of the African delegation were not being heard, were not being expressed. This is what Bishop Messiah said. This is what other people said about the decision of the Episcopal Committee. So let's hear straight from you. What has been your experience in the 17th Episcopal District over these years that Bishop Messiah has been here?
Thank you very much for giving the opportunity to bring home some of the activities that we have experienced in the administration of Bishop Messiah in the district. When Bishop Messiah came to the district way back in 2012, up to now, we hasn't experienced the administration. We haven't seen infrastructure development. Those they changed budgeted for the district. The money that are made through the budgets from the nation hasn't been applied.
Say that last part again. Say the last part again.
The money for the development plan budgeted for the district hasn't been applied.
Wow. I wanted to make sure I heard it right. I thought I heard it the first time, but I wanted to make sure I heard it right. But go ahead.
Us being the land, we have been for several times in the sitting of annual conference about the development and its usage.
Wow.
the bishop had never given us tangible answers as to where the money goes or where the money lies. Because we understand and then that church had the budget for each particular district. And money that is not raised by the itself, we don't know where the money goes. If we talk of the church development, we remember the changes and yet the change with this district money and the development fund.
Wow.
But the bishop hasn't learned that money to development, and that has been in the administration. We have tried by almost the leader, but our voice lands on the desk of the district leadership.
So could you I'm sorry.
Getting the money, the delegates that they were supposed to pay their own. It's not a new thing. We engage with Bishop on this issue, not behind the back by the spirit. That he wrote and connected that was written by the chief of we got them too. And that's the church. You know the focus of the chief financial officer to say it is not right to ask the delegate to pay the because this will be the divine church and they are supposed to pay as the district outlines in the budget for the delegate.
Wow.
So there are a number of movements that has been going on in the district. We were attended that we wanted to see the commission looking at the fact that we being funded by the church. But most of our churches, our church in the district, they are not attending. So after the voice of the church, we brought it to the ears of the bishop of the 70th Episcopal. 70th Episcopal to be, with the 16th country. Zambia is not the group. Bishop Messiah sometimes you still go with the 70th Episcopal in Zambia. I have been to DRS. The change look like that. If you go to Kenya, you go to there was nothing that leadership can point at. At some time in Rwanda, they changed the movement help those churches. But that money will never be seen again. And these are issues that the Bishop Messiah.
So could you speak really, brother? And these are. Thank you for this. Thank you for sharing this, because these are things that have not necessarily come out on the floor of the conference this week. Could you speak to the charges that were brought up against Bishop Messiah, particularly the charges of the delegate shift thing, the charges about the money with the widows, and even charging delegates if they wanted to become delegates who weren't even delegates yet, but were who were attempting and running to be elected delegates, that they had to pay a little bit of money. And And I believe, I don't know if we lost Brother Sapopa. I see the screen went black, but when he comes back, I'd like for him to answer this question as well. Tell us a little bit about those charges.
The charges of the General Conference it's true.
Wow.
It's true. And the supervisor of the district will get that the delegates, when you are elected, it is your responsibility and your family to ensure that you pay for yourself, which is not supposed to be the case.
Right. So what you're saying, I want to make sure that we get this right. What you're saying is that he told the delegates that they would have to cover it themselves. And based upon what I know about the law of the church, is that the delegates are covered by the Episcopal district. Am I right about that? They're supposed to be. And you were telling me that Bishop Messiah told the delegates that they would have to cover themselves when there was money that was allocated to cover the delegates. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we were clear for our audience, because this is very, very real. So continue. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I want to make sure that you are heard, because these are very important stories. So, Brother Sapopa, you're back. If you could speak a little bit to the charges that were brought up against Bishop Messiah today, and the ruling by the Episcopal Committee, the Judicial Committee. Oh, well, I know you can't really speak too much about it, but what you can share, I don't want to get you in trouble, but what you can share, particularly about some of the criteria, just not even, you don't have to go into the details of the case, but the criteria that the Judicial Committee looks at when it comes to cases that come before you about bishops. You there, Brother Sapopa? I think he's frozen. Can you hear us? Can you see us? I think you're frozen. Okay, because I see you moving. We'll come back to you as soon as we can get through. Brother Kalinga. Yes. You go ahead. You were about to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say something.
Sure.
On the account of the issue regarding the money for the widows in one of the conferences, money was distributed that and
I think
and Bishop is on that account. Yes, sir.
Hold on. I think we're finally hearing from Brother Sapopa. Go ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Are you getting me?
We should. Oh, you muted yourself. Okay. Go ahead, Brother Kalinga. I'm sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties. But no, go right ahead. You were saying that the money from
the money that was raised from those churches in America and for the intended purpose was not given to the recipients.
Wow.
And that went for a lack of a better term. People are grieved and they were expecting to do something and the money just appeared like that. So this issue went to the high court of Zambia, of which Bishop Pryor was found wanting that issue, and he was asking back money. So in truth, Bishop Pryor was found liable for misappropriation of funds by the high court of Zambia. And I think that judge document is all over. So in that aspect, we mentioned, the moral conduct of leaders.
This is very important stuff, and I'm glad that you're getting an opportunity to share and be heard. What do you have to say to the idea or the concept that the African delegation was not heard as it relates to the case of Bishop Messiah?
Yeah, on that point, I can say yes, we were given the focus. I personally found out the situation on this matter. We were given the chance to hear. We have found 3 congregations in a row. We were not given the chance to hear.
Wow. Say that again. I want to make sure that our listeners heard what you just said. This is very important. Very, very important.
I was saying, as the African Methodist, if you want to listen to, you need to go for as the lay association on certain matter. The issue of the delegate was one of them. The issue of monies with one of them. And other money the church. We thought the constitution by Bishop Messiah as a platform to passport this district. Hence, we are not opportunity, but to rest Bishop Messiah.
Wow. So do you believe that Bishop Messiah should not be a bishop in this next quadrennial?
If the general church, the way they voted, who am I to support? Because the church is okay. It's not witch hunting, but the church is okay.
This is wow. The church has spoken. And I just want to make sure, because one of the themes of the conference this week is that some of our motherland districts have not always felt heard, and that they have not always been recognized in the queue. What has been your experience so far this week, even beyond the vote for Bishop Messiah? What has been your experience with the General Conference so far this week?
You're not just like we put it. The delegates, they are not even in time to discuss their issues to the Pope. When the issues of came of the General Conference, most of us we wanted to speak. We raised up our hands, but we could not be recognized.
Wow.
Which is unacceptable. We should not be treated like, we are not part of the church. And this has been ongoing for some time. The issue of the delegate paying the $275, and I raised it with the financial officer. I raised it with the general. The answers that are unacceptable. from the church, coming to the issue of the names of the delegates. Those are issues that I put in the church, which is unacceptable. The right to elect delegates were informed, and they added their own. By this administration of people like that, that's unacceptable. We found conciliation over those. We were not given the chance to be heard. So you have to question, the leadership. If we are right like that, men of what?
Wow. And how has this experience been similar or dissimilar to experiences of in-person general conferences? Have you always felt heard on the floor of an in-person general conference? Or is this what's happening with our technological differences, just almost the same thing, just in a different context?
I can say it's nothing. There's nothing that has changed. The mother church needs to look at issues, whether in the district was to 20 or to 20 in the same way. We are all members of one church, and we need to be according to the right to be. Respect in dealing with issues.
Wow.
What has happened to people like that is a learning curve to whoever shall be given an appointment. This is not the first time Bishop Brian has been relocated. This is the second time.
Wow.
In 2012, in Nashville, he survived the relocation again. So it is something that is in history in the leadership of Bishop Brian. I thought you would have been by now. I rest my case.
Wow. What a testimony. What I cannot tell you how significant what you just said is. In what ways can we, as the American side of the AME Church, how can we do better by our siblings in the mother continent? What can we do to make sure that all the voices that are at the table are heard and heard better?
What I can say is we've got the GDC, which looks at the administration of African Methodist districts. Going forward, we need to have localized leadership on the continent of Africa. That is the way out. We can administer our own administration, but still remain connected to the connection.
Wow.
And that's when we can see the church develop.
So
if we are there, we put the leadership, we will never develop.
So you one word that you said over the course of our interview that I think is very significant. You used the word development quite a bit. Can you speak to the role of the Global Development Council in the homeland, the motherland districts, and what is your experience been?
You see, development in general is dependent on the people that you have in the districts. I cannot put it in growing things to say development doesn't take place the whole of Africa. You look at the 19, they've got significant development. The only district on the continent of Africa, because they've got leadership that deals with the local membership. And the resources are utilized for the cause of the local development of the church. The money that are given by the connection church to that district are utilized in the independent business. So this bonding borders on the leadership on the Episcopal. If you got the right to you're developed.
Wow. I want to just re-say that point that Brother Kalinga just made. If you have the right to leadership, you've got the right to development. That is such a significant point.
That's
and so I want you to because I know that Brother Sapopa has been having some technical difficulties. He's back on now, and so I'm going to ask him a couple questions, but I want you to say a word to your siblings in the African delegation who are frustrated with the lack of representation, the lack of homegrown leadership, those who are frustrated with the process of being heard on the floor of the General Conference. What do you say to them as somebody who has committed himself to leadership in the African Methodist Episcopal Church?
What I can encourage my members from the continent of Africa is that we need to step up. Rome was built in one day. Civilization is a process. We need to touch on. But there will never be anybody outside to come and give us the development that we need. We need to let us stand on our feet.
Wow.
And we need to embrace each other and support each other. That's the way we can all develop. Our brothers and sisters in the district, first 18, they've got the privilege because they are near to the administration church to the connection. But for us on the continent, we need to support. We need to work together. We need the right leadership amongst ourselves for us to develop. If the church is connected, we need to be connected as well. We need to move forward as united front to develop.
What powerful words. What powerful words. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to see if we can get Brother Sapopa on. I know he's been having some issues and the hour is late, but we want to make sure that your voice is heard. One of the things that has been said, and I think this is a question that is in the purview of what you can answer, because we want to respect the office of the Episcopal Committee. Some people are concerned that this move by the Episcopal Committee and by the church is to strip Bishop Messiah of the chance to be senior bishop. What do you say to that?
I don't actually support that. It is not a weak. Yes, we've heard the voices saying that no, they don't want to become a senior bishop. No. That is one of the things. If Bishop Messiah has to choose coming in leadership, the law has to take it. And we expecting people that are in leadership to show tangible leadership. If they are shortcoming, that is how the church has spoken. It's not written. There is a history in the leadership of Bishop St. I was there in Nashville. He survived the middle officially. He was by then official before the 2012 General Conference. And the Episcopal Committee also recommended that Bishop Messiah be the General Conference.
Wow.
He was always saying that Bishop. So it is not a good start. History repeats it, and it has repeated itself.
Thank you.
So it's not a reason. I don't support that.
Okay.
So Bishop Messiah to take a leaf. What is happening in his leadership?
Thank you for that. Brother Sapopa, what about you? What do you think?
What's your question again?
The question is that some people believe that this is just a ploy to block Bishop Messiah from becoming the senior bishop of the AME Church. And for those of you who are watching who may not fully understand, the senior bishop in the AME Church is decided by succession, that that the order in which a bishop is elected, the longest serving active bishop is now the senior bishop of the church. So after 2016, when Bishop John Bryan retired, Bishop McKinley Young became the senior bishop of the AME Church. When Bishop Young passed, then Bishop Richardson became the senior bishop of the AME Church. After Bishop Richardson, the next longest serving active bishop would be Bishop Messiah. And so the statement is, and this is to the question, Brother Sapopa, is that some people believe that this is a ploy or a conspiracy to keep Bishop Messiah from becoming the next senior bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And what is significant about this is that directly after Bishop Messiah is Bishop Kawembe. And so could you speak to that assertion, Brother Sapopa?
I don't think so. Reason is that yes, we know that he was supposed to be the next one, but there is some issue behind leadership, and this issue they didn't start now.
Right.
Yeah, we have been facing this for some time. Actually, most of our bishops, they are aware because of the consequences. We have been copying them. So it's not something new. We've tried our little bit to find any reconciliation, but he has never responded.
Wow.
So this is the end of that.
So what do you think would be the significance of a senior bishop that is from the motherland districts 14, 15, 17 through 20? What do you think would be the significance of having an African senior bishop?
Is that question coming to me? Having a senior bishop at the motherland, it would be a good thing because the Methodist Church is a connecting church. So we have one from here. There's nothing wrong with that. For example, right now, our conventional lay president is from the motherland.
Right.
But the issue today is the leadership of Bishop Messiah had something. So we are not supporting because of one is coming from the motherland. What we need is a smart leadership with this great fire.
Wow. So what do you think having a African senior bishop would mean to you from the motherland districts? What would that mean to you as somebody who is in leadership and has committed yourself to the AME Church? What would that mean to you personally? Did you hear me? Did we lose you? Brother Sapopa. Okay, good. Yeah, I think you dropped off for a second. Could you start from the beginning? Can you hear me? I think there might be a little bit of a delay. Well, let's seems like we're having a little bit of delay. We're going to try to wrap up in a little bit, but we want to know how do you feel so far about the General Conference? And
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now? Great. How do you feel about the General Conference? And just as somebody, is this your first? This isn't, if you're on the Episcopal Committee, more than likely, this is not your first time as a delegate to the General Conference, Brother Spoka. So how have you felt about your experience so far this week?
My experience is so exciting because we should expect change every time. Now it's a pity that maybe from the other side we didn't go preparation.
Mm.
If these challenges we're talking about people maybe not being heard, we didn't invest in technology. I didn't think that we had maybe a budget and we preserved it specifically for this global cause.
Mm.
We could have find ourselves becoming better. I remember that the last meeting, that is 14, 15, 17, 18, and even 20. I remember that Bishop McLeod emphasized on what to say after the meeting. We had they are going to have a meeting to submit their proposal from this decision. Like myself, I doubt if our leadership did so. If they did, what they're supposed to be first is to put the submission on technology. For example, here in 70, some of the latest laptops, which can react, some they don't have. I remember one of my reverends went to court, very good court. It was getting started. Then on the issues of the queue, there's some people who have an opportunity to speak that act. When the issue of Bishop Messiah was in the phone, some people were supporting it where the one was picked.
Wow. Say that again. Can you say that again? I want you to say that again, just for the record.
Some people who were supporting, they are the only people who were picked.
Wow.
So I don't know how the system works there. Some of us want to speak out, speak out top. We are not. And now the general comfort, they think that whatever is happening is being biased on the other side.
Right.
Which is not the case. For example, President I we are thinking of being removed on the list of the delegate. We wrote to the Chief Information Officer of the It's evident. The Chief Information Officer returned back our request. He said you can sort it out during the annual conference. The annual conference, the so-called annual conference was called. I'm saying annual conference was called. But that issue was never resolved. It was quiet.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. These are some of the things we don't sorry about ourselves, avoid all the what's happening. We are not doing this agenda with maybe of law. It was something which we wanted to sort it as Christian. But if the other end they're not doing it acceptable, this is where we are.
Wow. What do you think the road ahead looks like for establishing a greater connection within the connection? What does it look like for a stronger African Methodism where our motherland districts and our American side districts feel like they are on the same page? What does that look like? What do you think is necessary for us to get there?
Let me start again.
Say that again.
I missed that point. Now I can get.
Okay. So I said, what does the way forward look like? How do we make sure that our motherland districts feel on the same page and on the same level and are respected on the same level, as I should say, as our American side districts? What does that look like to you as a native of the 17th Episcopal District?
Danny, something you can say we need that and this. There is some areas whereby us here on the continent we have been failing to take a serious step in the right direction.
Awesome.
We fought for indigenous leadership. On that platform, we were supposed to identify which direction we want exactly. Now, as you can see, instead of achieving what we wanted, again we are finding ourselves losing that. So what we need to do is what's there. We take it up, united.
Wow.
We identify the common goal. Then we head to that.
What a statement. So we need to wrap up. I'm going to give you the final word. I want to ask you the same question I asked Brother Kalinga. What do you say to the African delegate, the delegate from the motherland, who feels disenfranchised, who feels silenced, who feels as if they do not have a voice into the church that they love so dearly, that their grandparents and great-grandparents love? What do you say to them as somebody who has committed yourself to the work of the African Methodist Episcopal Church?
Some people we don't know what they mean by they're not there because we've got a structure.
Wow.
If you're not heard, follow the structure. In some way, there's some again, with people who say that witchcraft with some hidden agendas. So we need to know clearly.
Wow.
Why do you mean that you're not yet?
Wow. Well, thank you. This has been an excellent conversation. I am walking away full, and hopefully you all are walking away and are about to go to sleep. Get some rest. It's been a long day for both of you, and hopefully we will, as a church, be able to do better in the morning. Okay? Thank you so much to Brother Sean Sapopa and Brother Caesar Kalenga, all the way from the 17th Episcopal District. This has been a special edition of the General Conference Let Out. Please make sure to like, to share, and to subscribe to the Christian Recorder, not just on the Facebook page, but to subscribe to the Christian Recorder, both online and in print. We thank you all for tuning in. We thank Brother John Thomas once again for creating this space. And I must again end with this disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed on this show are that of those who are on this show and not of the Christian Recorder or the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I pray that we will live out the true vision and mission of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Towards the end of his life, Richard Allen convened a convention at Mother Bethel, where he brought Black leaders from all across the diaspora to Mother Bethel to talk about liberation. And the meeting went in such a way that Richard Allen was not sure whether or not we would get to a place where we would see that liberation, where we could see that freedom, where we can see that beloved community. I believe that one of the biggest hurdles to us getting there is making sure that the voices of our siblings in the motherland are heard on the same plane as those of us here. It does not make sense for us to march outside of the church for our voices to be heard in the halls of Congress, on the floor of the Senate, or in the White House, and then come into the General Conference and participate in the potential silencing of our siblings overseas. May we do better, and may God grant us wisdom and grant us courage for the facing of this hour. In Jesus' name, amen. Good night. You have a blessed day. Take care.
It's morning here.
Oh, good morning. Good morning to all of our African. Good morning. Have a great day. Get some coffee. All right. Take care.